My name is Harper and I'm 29 years old. Standing in this auditorium watching my sister Mallory receive her medical school diploma, I held an envelope that would destroy everything my parents built on lies. 8 years ago, they told me there was no money for my college. But right now, I'm wearing a designer suit worth more than their monthly mortgage payment, and I drove here in a car that cost what they spent on my sister's entire freshman year. In 10 minutes, I would walk onto that stage as the keynote speaker. My parents had no idea. My sister had no idea. And when the truth came out, their perfect world would crumble. Before I tell you what happened next, I need you to understand how I got here. This story is about family betrayal, revenge, and the price of being called adequate. If you've ever been the forgotten child, the one who wasn't worth investing in, you'll understand exactly why I did what I did. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Have you ever had to prove your family wrong about you? Hit that like button if you want to see how this plays out, and subscribe, because family karma stories like this one don't come around often. Trust me, you won't believe how this ends. I grew up in Marysville, Ohio. Small town, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone's business. My father worked as a bank manager at the local branch. My mother was an administrator at the elementary school. From the outside, we looked like a normal, stable, middle-class family. 2 daughters, nice house, 2-car garage. The American dream. But inside that house, things were different. I was born in 1995. My parents told me years later that I was a surprise. They weren't planning on kids yet. My mother was 23, my father was 25. They got married young and wanted to enjoy their 20s before starting a family. Then I came along and changed everything. 3 years later, they had Mallory. She was planned, wanted, the baby they actually chose to have. I didn't understand the difference when I was little. I thought all families were like ours. I thought it was normal that my sister got new things while I got hand-me-downs. I thought it was normal that her birthdays were celebrated with huge parties while mine were quiet family dinners. I thought it was just how things were. Christmas 2005 was the first time I really noticed. I was 10 years old. Mallory was 7. We came downstairs that morning, and there under the tree was a brand new bicycle for Mallory. Shiny red paint, white seat streamers on the handlebars. She squealed and jumped up and down. My parents beamed. I looked for my big gift. I found a box of clothes. Used clothes from my cousin. My mother smiled at me. You needed new things for school, sweetie. I didn't say anything. I was 10. I didn't have the words yet to explain why my chest felt tight. The pattern continued. Mallory's birthday parties had themes. Princess parties with 30 kids from her class rented bouncy castles, catered food. My birthday was cake after dinner with just family. When Mallory brought home a report card with 3 B pluses and 2 A minuses, my parents took her out for ice cream to celebrate. When I brought home straight A's, they said good job and moved on. It was expected of me. Extracurricular activities were where it really showed. Mallory wanted to take piano lessons. My parents signed her up immediately. $40 per week. When I wanted to join the track team in middle school, they said I needed to pay the fees myself. I was 13. I started babysitting for neighbors to afford the $200 season fee. Mallory wanted to try tennis. They bought her a racket and paid for lessons. She quit after 3 months. The racket sat in the garage. When I was 16, my parents remodeled Mallory's bedroom. New furniture, new paint, new everything. She was 13. She picked out this elaborate princess-themed setup with a canopy bed and matching dresser. Cost them almost $3,000. I still had the same twin bed and desk from when I was 6. When I asked if I could get new furniture too, my father said maybe next year. Next year never came. I left for college with that same childhood bedroom intact. The college visits were the beginning of the end. Spring of my senior year, 2014. I had worked incredibly hard. I had a 4.0 GPA. I was captain of the track team. I volunteered at the local library every weekend. I was accepted to Northwestern University with a partial academic scholarship. It was my dream school. The scholarship covered about half the tuition. I needed my parents to cover the rest. About $22,000 per year. I remember sitting down with them at our kitchen table in April. I had the acceptance letter in my hand. I was so excited. I thought they'd be proud. My father looked at the numbers. My mother looked uncomfortable. Then my father said the words that changed everything. "We don't have that kind of money, Harper. You'll need to go to community college or find another way." I stared at them. "What do you mean? You've been saving for college since I was born. You always said you had college funds for both of us." My mother glanced at my father. Then she said, "That money is for Mallory's medical school. She's going to be a doctor." Mallory was 15 years old. She was a sophomore in high school. She hadn't even taken the SAT yet. She hadn't applied to a single college. But they had already decided that all the college savings would go to her. I felt something break inside me that day. I tried to argue. I tried to explain that I had earned this, that I had worked so hard. My father cut me off. "Mallory has potential, Harper. She's going to do something important with her life. You're adequate. You'll be fine anywhere." Adequate. That word echoed in my head. I was adequate. My straight A's were adequate. My scholarships were adequate. My dreams were adequate. I wasn't worth investing in because I was just adequate. We fought that night. I said things I'd never said before. I called them out on the favoritism. I listed every single instance of unfair treatment I could remember. My mother cried. My father got angry. He said I was being ungrateful, that they had fed me and clothed me and put a roof over my head and I should be thankful. I left the house that night. I slept in my car in the library parking lot. I couldn't be in that house with them. The next morning I made a decision. I was going to prove them wrong. I was going to show them exactly how much potential I had, and I was going to do it completely on my own. I enrolled at Columbus State Community College in the fall of 2014. I moved into a tiny studio apartment with 2 roommates, 3 of us sharing 500 square feet. My bed was a mattress on the floor. I worked 3 jobs to pay for everything. I was a barista from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. Then I worked retail at the mall from 3 until 9. On weekends I did catering gigs for events. Weddings, corporate parties, anything that paid. I lived on ramen noodles and scrambled eggs. I wore the same 5 outfits on rotation. I had no social life. No time for friends or dating or fun. I was surviving barely. My parents never called to check on me. Not once. I saw on Facebook that they took Mallory to visit 15 different college campuses during her sophomore and junior years. Trips to California, trips to the East Coast overnight, stays at campus hotels. They posted photos of her smiling in front of different university signs. My mother's captions were always the same. "So proud of my daughter exploring her future." Christmas 2014, I wasn't invited to family dinner. My mother sent me a text message the day before. "We're keeping it small this year, just the 3 of us." I spent Christmas Day working a catering event for a law firm party. When family asked where I was, my parents told them I was taking a gap year to find myself. Like I was some trust fund kid backpacking through Europe instead of working myself to exhaustion just to survive. The summer of 2015 changed my trajectory. I was working a catering event at a tech company downtown. Big corporate thing, hundreds of people. I was serving appetizers, and I overheard a conversation between 2 executives. One of them was talking about how they just hired a coding bootcamp graduate for $70,000 a year. Entry level. 6 months of training, and the kid was making more than people with 4-year degrees. I went home that night and researched coding bootcamps. I found one in Columbus that had excellent reviews. It was intensive. 12 hours a day, 6 days a week for 6 months. The program cost $15,000. I had saved $8,000 from my 3 jobs. I took out a personal loan for the rest. The interest rate was brutal, but I didn't care. This was my way out. I quit my retail job and kept the barista and catering gigs. I started the boot camp in September 2015. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I woke up at 5 in the morning to open the coffee shop, worked until 1 in the afternoon, went straight to boot camp until 10 at night, got home at 11, studied until 2 in the morning, slept 3 hours, did it again. Every single day for 6 months. I lost 20 pounds because I forgot to eat. I had constant headaches from staring at computer screens. My hands cramped from typing. I cried in the bathroom at the coffee shop more times than I can count. But I didn't quit. Every time I wanted to give up, I remembered my father's voice. Adequate. You're adequate. And I kept going. My parents had no idea any of this was happening. They thought I was still taking general education classes at community college. They never asked about my life. The few times I saw them at family gatherings, they barely spoke to me. All their attention was on Mallory. She was taking AP classes. She was president of the Honor Society. She was volunteering at the hospital. She was perfect. In March 2016, I graduated from the coding boot camp. Top of my class. I had 6 job interviews lined up within a week. By April, I had an offer from a small startup in Columbus. $65,000 a year. More money than my father made as a bank manager. I was 21 years old, and I had just changed my entire life. I sent my father an email. Short and simple. Got a job as a software developer. Starting salary $65,000. Thought you should know. He replied 3 hours later. That's nice, Harper. His response was 2 words. 2 words after I had worked myself into the ground to prove him wrong. That fall, Mallory started at Ohio State University. Pre-med program. My parents threw a huge going-away party for her. 50 people in our backyard. A banner that said, "Congratulations, future Dr. Mallory." My mother posted about it on Facebook with a long caption about how proud she was to have a daughter pursuing such a noble profession. I wasn't invited to the party. I found out about it from the photos posted online. From 2016 to 2017, I focused on building my skills. I taught myself advanced programming languages at night. I took on freelance projects to build my portfolio. I saved aggressively. 50% of every paycheck went straight into savings. I had a plan forming in my mind. Something bigger than just proving them wrong. Something that would change everything. I watched from a distance as my parents documented Mallory's perfect college life. Photos of them helping her move into the dorm. Photos of family weekend visits. Photos of her sorority events, with my mother beaming beside her. My mother's Facebook bio changed to proud mom of an Ohio State Buckeye. No mention of her other daughter. Thanksgiving 2016, I decided to try one more time. I showed up at their house unannounced. I walked in during dinner prep. My mother looked startled to see me. My father looked annoyed. Mallory looked at me like I was intruding. We sat down for an awkward meal. Mallory talked about her classes and her friends and her amazing college experience. My parents hung on every word. When I tried to share about my job, my father changed the subject. Mallory made a snide comment. "Why are you even here? Don't you have community college homework or something?" I left 20 minutes later. That was the last time I tried to reconcile with them. December 2017, sitting in my small apartment, I had an idea. An idea that would eventually lead me to that graduation stage 8 years later. I saw a gap in the market, something no one else was doing, and I knew exactly how to fill it. January 2018. I was 23 years old. I had been working as a developer for almost 2 years, and I noticed something. Every time I went to the doctor's office, they were using either paper systems or incredibly outdated software from the 1990s. Scheduling appointments required phone calls. Accessing medical records took forever. Billing was a nightmare. The healthcare industry was decades behind in technology. I spent 3 months building a prototype. I called it MediFlow. It was a comprehensive system that integrated patient scheduling, digital records, billing, and insurance processing, all in one clean interface. I worked on it every night after my regular job, weekends, every spare moment. I tested it with a small family clinic in Columbus. The doctor was a friend of a friend who agreed to try it out. Within 2 weeks, the clinic's efficiency improved by 40%. They could see more patients reduce wait times, and their billing errors dropped to almost zero. The doctor asked if he could pay me for it. That's when I realized I had something real. In March 2018, I quit my job at the startup. I incorporated my own company, Stream Health Solutions LLC. I was the CEO, the CTO, the lead developer, the sales team, and the customer service department all rolled into one. I paid myself minimum wage and reinvested every dollar back into the business. The first year was terrifying. I signed up 12 medical offices, small family practices mostly. Revenue was $180,000. Not huge, but enough to prove the concept worked. I moved to a better apartment, but I kept my lifestyle modest. I still drove my old Honda. I still wore jeans and t-shirts most days. My parents had no idea any of this was happening. As far as they knew, I was still working some entry-level tech job. Meanwhile, I watched Mallory's Instagram. She made Dean's List her freshman year. She was elected sorority social chair. She went on spring break to Cancun. She got a new car for her birthday, a Honda CR-V that my parents bought her. Every post showed her perfect, carefree life, funded entirely by my parents. Christmas 2018, my parents sent me a $50 Visa gift card in the mail. No card, no note, just the gift card in an envelope. That same Christmas, I saw photos of them giving Mallory a MacBook Pro and an Apple Watch. Combined value of over $2,000. I sent them nothing back. I was done pretending we were a family. 2019 was the growth year. I hired my first 2 employees, a junior developer and a part-time salesperson. Revenue hit $650,000. I landed my first major contract with a group of Cleveland Clinic satellite offices. That contract alone was worth $300,000 over 2 years. My company was becoming real. My mother called me once that entire year. May 2019. Can you lend Mallory $500 for textbooks? I was confused. I thought you were paying for everything, Mom. We are, but she needs extra money for a sorority trip. Spring break costs more than we budgeted. I said no. My mother was silent for a long moment. Then she said, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. You've always been selfish. She hung up. We didn't speak for 6 months after that. Then 2020 hit and everything exploded. The pandemic changed the world, and it changed my business trajectory completely. Hospitals were desperate for contactless solutions. They needed telemedicine integration immediately. They needed systems that could handle video consultations, remote scheduling, digital paperwork. I worked 18-hour days adding those features to MetaFlow. Within 2 weeks, I had a fully functional telemedicine platform integrated into the existing system. The contracts flooded in. Medium-sized hospitals, large practice groups, urgent care chains. Everyone needed what I built, and they needed it immediately. By the end of 2020, my revenue was $4.2 million. My company was valued at $15 million. I had 7 employees. I was 25 years old, and I was a multimillionaire. While I was building an empire, Mallory was posting online about how hard it was to fill out medical school applications. My parents started a GoFundMe to help with their med school expenses. The goal was $10,000. They raised $1,200. I saw the GoFundMe link. I didn't donate. I watched it sit there for months, barely funded, and I felt nothing. 2021 was the breakthrough year. A national hospital chain signed a 5-year contract with my company. The deal was worth $12 million over the contract term. My company revenue for that year was $8.7 million. My personal net worth crossed $3 million. I bought a house in the suburbs. 4 bedrooms, finished basement, 2-car garage. I told my parents I was renting. I bought a Lexus. I told them it was a used Honda. When I visited family, I wore old jeans and kept up the appearance of struggling young professional. Mallory got into Ohio State Medical School that spring. My parents were ecstatic. They posted about it constantly. My mother's Facebook cover photo became a picture of Mallory in a white coat at her acceptance ceremony. The caption, "Dreams really do come true." So proud of my future doctor. I found out from my aunt that my parents took out a second mortgage on their house to afford Mallory's medical school tuition. $60,000 per year for 4 years. They borrowed $120,000 against the house they'd almost paid off. They destroyed their financial future to fund her education. The same parents who told me there was no money for my college were willing to go into massive debt for hers. I was angry, but I was also calculating. I could see where this was heading, and I was already forming a plan that would culminate on a graduation stage 3 years later. August 2021. I received a LinkedIn message from someone I didn't know. Her name was Bethany Rodriguez. The message was short. Are you related to Mallory Bennett? I need to talk to you about something important. Can we meet for coffee? I was curious. I agreed to meet her at a Starbucks near my office. Bethany was around my age, maybe a year or two older. She looked nervous. We ordered coffee and sat down. She pulled out a folder of documents. This is hard for me, she started. I don't like to cause problems, but I saw your name on a business article and I realized you might be able to help me understand something. Are you Mallory's sister? I nodded. We're not close. Bethany looked relieved. Good, because what I'm about to tell you might upset you. She opened the folder. I was at Ohio State at the same time as Mallory. We were both biology majors. Senior year, we were in the same advanced research seminar. It's a capstone class where you do independent research and write a thesis. I spent an entire year on my project. Original research on cellular regeneration in planaria. Hundreds of hours in the lab. She pulled out printed pages. This is my thesis. I submitted it in April 2021. A month later, I found out Mallory submitted a thesis that was almost identical to mine. Not similar. Identical. She copied my entire research project. My methodology, my data, my analysis, my conclusions. She changed some words around, but it was clearly plagiarism. I stared at the documents. You reported it? Bethany nodded. Of course I did. The department launched an investigation. They pulled both our theses. They compared them. It was obvious what happened. I had documentation of all my lab work going back months. Time-stamped entries, supervisor signatures, the whole thing. Mallory had nothing. No lab notes, no data collection records, nothing. So what happened? I asked. Bethany's expression turned bitter. The investigation was dropped. Suddenly, out of nowhere. I was told there wasn't enough evidence to pursue it. Then I found out why. Your father made a donation to the university. A substantial donation to the biology department. The investigation disappeared. Mallory graduated with honors. I was accused of making unfounded allegations. I failed the seminar and had to take an extra semester to graduate. It delayed my entire life by 6 months. Because your family paid to cover up her cheating. She showed me everything. Her original research notes with dates. Her submitted thesis. Mallory's thesis. They were identical. She had email correspondence with the department chair. She had records of the investigation being opened and then suddenly closed. She even had proof of my father's donation, $25,000 to the Ohio State Biology Department, donated by Gregory Bennett in May 2021, right when the investigation was closed. You know what's worse, Bethany said. Mallory never apologized, never even acknowledged it. She posted on Instagram about graduating with honors, about how hard work pays off. Meanwhile, I was picking up the pieces of my academic career that she destroyed. I felt rage building in my chest, but I kept my voice calm. Do you still have all this documentation? Everything. Bethany gestured to the folder. I kept it all. I thought about going public with it, but I was afraid. Your father works at a bank. Your mother works for the school district. I was just a student. I didn't think anyone would believe me. Can I have copies of everything I asked? I'm going to fix this. I promise you. Bethany looked at me with hope. Really? Really? That conversation changed everything. It wasn't enough that I had become successful. It wasn't enough that I had proven them wrong about me. I needed to show the world who my sister really was. And more importantly, I needed to expose the entire system my parents built to protect her. I started digging into Mallory's life. I hired a private investigator. It cost me $3,000, but it was worth every penny. The report came back in November 2021, and it was damning. Mallory's volunteer work at a free clinic that she listed on her medical school applications. She attended 3 times. Total hours, maybe 8. She claimed 200 hours on her application. The supervisor at the clinic confirmed she barely showed up, but her name was on the volunteer roster because my parents knew the director. The medical mission trip to Guatemala that she posted about extensively on Instagram. It was a resort vacation in Cancun. I found the hotel booking. 5-star, all-inclusive resort. The photos she posted were carefully cropped to look like she was doing humanitarian work. My parents' credit card statement showed the truth. Her research publication that she listed on her CV. She was added as a co-author on a paper, but she did absolutely no work. The lead researcher, Dr. Martinez, confirmed to my investigator that Mallory barely showed up to the lab. She was only added to the paper because my parents donated to the research fund. Another $10,000 donation. Her athletic achievements. She claimed to be on the varsity track team. She was on the team for 1 semester her sophomore year. She never competed once, just showed up for practice a few times. Everything about my sister's perfect record was either exaggerated or completely fabricated, and my parents funded all of it. In December 2021, I decided to dig deeper into her medical school experience. I created a fake LinkedIn profile, made it look like I was a prospective student interested in Ohio State's medical program. I reached out to several current students asking about the program. One of them was in Mallory's class. His name was Devin. We had a video call. I asked him about the program, the workload, the culture. Then I mentioned I had heard of Mallory Bennett through a family friend. Did he know her? Devin's expression changed. Oh yeah, I know Mallory. She's the one whose parents pay for everything. She's honestly struggling pretty hard. She nearly failed anatomy first year. Had to hire private tutors. I heard her parents paid like $5,000 for tutoring that semester. I pushed for more information. Devin didn't know he was talking to Mallory's sister. He opened up. She was on academic probation after first year. Her parents hired an academic coach to help her. I'm pretty sure the coach did most of her work for her. Second year, she seemed to do better, but everyone knew she was getting help that the rest of us couldn't afford. Her Instagram makes it look like she's killing it, but honestly, she parties 4 nights a week and barely keeps up with coursework. How much do you think her parents have spent helping her? I asked carefully. Devin laughed. Dude, probably hundreds of thousands. Tuition is like 60 grand a year, plus tutors, plus coaches, plus rent, plus everything else. I heard she lives in a nice apartment downtown that they pay for. Meanwhile, the rest of us are in crappy student housing, eating ramen. Must be nice to have a blank check. It must be, I agreed. After that call, I did the math. 4 years of medical school at $60,000 per year. That's $240,000 in tuition alone. Add in tutors, academic coaches, apartment, rent, living expenses, car insurance, everything else. My parents had easily spent over $350,000 on Mallory in the past 8 years. On me, $0. Not a single cent. This is where everything crystallized for me. I realized that exposing Mallory's cheating and lies wasn't enough. I needed to do it publicly, spectacularly, at a moment when it would hurt the most. I needed them to feel the humiliation of having their perfect daughter exposed as a fraud in front of everyone who believed the lie. And I knew exactly when and where to do it. Mallory's medical school graduation, June 8, 2024. That's where I would burn their world down. Early 2023 brought changes I couldn't have imagined 5 years earlier. My company, Stream Health Solutions, had grown beyond anything I had dreamed when I started it in that tiny apartment. We had 45 employees. We were operating in 43 states. Our software was running in over 800 medical facilities. Then, in January, I got a call that would change everything. A venture capital firm wanted to invest. They offered $25 million for 30% of the company. I negotiated them down to 20%. The deal valued my company at $125 million. My personal net worth after the deal closed was $18 million. I was 28 years old. Forbes reached out to do a feature on me for their 30 under 30 list. The article came out in March 2023. It had my photo, my story details about how I built Stream Health from nothing, how I went from working 3 minimum wage jobs to running a multi-million-dollar company. The article was titled, From Community College to CEO, How Harper Bennett Disrupted Healthcare Technology. My aunt called me the day it came out. Harper, did your parents see this? I don't know. I don't talk to them. She was quiet. They should see this. They need to know what you've accomplished. Please don't tell them, I said. I'm not ready yet. She agreed to keep it quiet, but she told me something that solidified my plans. Your parents are struggling financially, Harper. Really struggling. Your father is 62, and he's talking about retiring early, but they don't have nearly enough saved. Your mother is working extra hours. All their money went to Mallory. I'm worried about them. Good, I said coldly. They made their choices. In April 2023, something fortuitous happened. Ohio State Medical School reached out to my company. They wanted to implement Stream Health solutions across all their affiliated clinics and training facilities. The contract was worth $2 million over 3 years. During the negotiation meetings, I met with the dean of the medical school. We were discussing implementation timelines when I mentioned casually that I had a family connection to the school. My sister is a current student. Mallory Bennett. Class of 2024. The dean's expression changed. He looked uncomfortable. Oh, you're Mallory's sister. He paused. Are you two close? Not particularly, I said. Why do you ask? He chose his words carefully. She's had some academic challenges. We provide support services, of course. I just wondered if you were in regular contact. I saw my opportunity. Actually, I've lost touch with her over the years. I'd love to reconnect. I was thinking of attending her graduation next year. Do you ever have guest speakers at the ceremony? The dean brightened. Actually, we do. We typically invite successful alumni or community business leaders. Given your company's partnership with us and your family connection, would you be interested in being our keynote speaker? I pretended to think about it. That would be meaningful. Yes, I'd be honored. We shook hands. The graduation was scheduled for June 8, 2024. I had just secured my stage. My sister had no idea. My parents had no idea. And in 15 months, I would stand in front of 2,000 people and detonate the truth. The rest of 2023 was spent preparing. I compiled every piece of evidence about Mallory's lies. Bethany's plagiarism documentation. The private investigator's report on her fabricated volunteer work and fake mission trip. Statements from Dr. Martinez about the research paper. Photo evidence proving the Guatemala trip was actually Cancun. Records of the tutors and academic coaches my parents hired. Financial statements showing every dollar they spent covering up her failures. I also discovered something else that made the story even more devastating. I hired a forensic accountant to look into my parents' finances. I wanted to know exactly how much damage they had done to themselves to prop up Mallory. The report was sobering. My parents' retirement account had been raided multiple times. They had borrowed against their 401k to pay for Mallory's expenses. They currently had $47,000 saved for retirement. At their age, financial advisors recommend having at least $400,000. They were 90% below where they should be. The second mortgage they took out was for $120,000. Between that and their original mortgage, they owed $210,000 on a house worth maybe $300,000. Their monthly payments were crushing them. And here's the thing. I could have helped them. If they had ever asked. If they had ever acknowledged me. If they had ever apologized. But they never did. So I made a different choice. In December 2023, I made an anonymous payment on their mortgage. $180,000. Enough to pay off their original mortgage completely. I did it through a third party so they couldn't trace it back to me. When they got the notification that their mortgage was paid off, they thought it was a bank error. They called my father's bank to report it. The bank confirmed the payment was legitimate but couldn't provide information about the source. My parents accepted it as a bizarre gift from the universe and moved on. I also set up a trust fund for them. $500,000 managed by a third-party fiduciary. The trust would provide $40,000 annually for the rest of their lives. They didn't know about it yet. I planned to reveal it after the graduation. After the explosion, they would learn that the daughter they called adequate had saved them from financial ruin, while the daughter they worshipped had driven them to the edge of bankruptcy. Spring of 2024 arrived. Mallory was finishing her final semester of medical school. Her Instagram showed the typical triumphant posts, almost done. 4 years of hard work paying off. Future doctor vibes. My parents commented on every single post with heart emojis and congratulations. I practiced my speech dozens of times. I wrote it, rewrote it, refined it. The dean had asked me to keep it to 15 minutes. Talk about innovation in healthcare. Inspire the graduates. Keep it professional. I submitted a generic speech about the future of medical technology and the importance of compassionate care. That's not the speech I planned to give. Not even close. June 1st, 1 week before graduation, I flew to Ohio. I stayed in a hotel near campus. I did a final check of all my evidence. Everything was organized, time-stamped, verified. I had backup copies in 3 different locations. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. June 7th, the day before graduation, I visited the convention center where the ceremony would take place. I walked the stage. I tested the microphone. I looked out at the 2,000 empty seats and imagined them filled. Imagined my parents sitting there expecting another celebration of their perfect daughter. Imagined Mallory in her cap and gown basking in applause for achievements she hadn't earned. Tomorrow, all of that would end. Tomorrow, I would give them the truth, and it would destroy everything they thought they knew. June 8, 2024. I woke up at 6 in the morning in my hotel suite. I ordered room service but barely touched the food. My stomach was tight with anticipation. I had been planning this for 3 years. Today, it all came together. I chose my outfit carefully. A navy blue designer suit tailored perfectly to fit. It cost $2,800. I wore a white silk blouse underneath. My Cartier watch, a gift I bought for myself when my company hit $100 million in valuation, $8,000 on my wrist. Pearl earrings. Professional makeup. Hair styled in a sleek low bun. I looked every inch the successful CEO. I looked nothing like the struggling community college dropout my parents thought I was. I drove my Lexus to the convention center. Parked in the VIP lot. It was 9 in the morning. The graduation ceremony started at 11. I went inside and met with the dean and other faculty members. They were warm and welcoming. "Thank you so much for doing this, Miss Bennett. The students are going to be inspired by your story." I smiled. "I'm honored to be here." I confirmed the schedule. Processional at 11. Opening remarks from the dean. Then the diploma ceremony where each graduate would cross the stage. That would take about 90 minutes. Then lunch break. Then my keynote address at 1:30. Perfect timing. My parents would have just watched Mallory receive her diploma. They'd be emotional and proud. And then I would shatter everything. I asked casually if my parents were in the audience. The event coordinator checked the seating chart. Yes, Gregory and Linda Bennett. Row 3 center section. Perfect seats. At 10:30, I was escorted to the backstage area. I could hear the crowd gathering. The excited chatter of families. I peeked through the curtain and saw my parents settling into their seats. My mother wore a dress I recognized from 10 years ago. Floral print, slightly faded. My father's suit was the same one he wore to every formal occasion. It was threadbare at the elbows. They looked older than I remembered. Tired. The financial stress was visible in their faces in the way they carried themselves. Mallory was in the staging area with the other graduates. I watched from a distance. She looked confident, happy. Her graduation gown had elaborate cords and sashes indicating various honors. I wondered how many of those were earned versus bought. 11 o'clock. The processional music started. The graduates filed into the auditorium. I was already seated on the stage with the faculty. I had a perfect view of everything. I watched my parents stand when the graduates entered. They were recording on their phones, beaming with pride. The same parents who never attended a single one of my track meets in high school. Who didn't come to my coding bootcamp graduation? Who never once asked to see my office or meet my employees? The dean gave opening remarks. He talked about the graduating class's achievements, the rigorous training, the dedication required to become physicians. I almost laughed. If only he knew how much of Mallory's training was purchased rather than earned. Then the diploma ceremony began. Names were called alphabetically. Students crossed the stage one by one, shook hands with the dean, posed for photos, moved their tassels. Standard graduation pageantry. When they reached the B names, I sat up straighter. Mallory Bennett. My parents jumped to their feet. They cheered loudly, embarrassingly loud. Other families turned to look at them. My mother had tears streaming down her face. My father was recording with both hands, holding his phone horizontally for better video. Mallory walked across the stage. She shook the dean's hand. She smiled for the camera, professional photos being taken. Then she turned, and for just a moment, her eyes landed on me sitting on stage with the faculty. Her smile faltered. Confusion crossed her face. Why is my sister here? I could see the thought process. We made eye contact. I smiled at her. A cold, calculated smile. She looked away quickly and walked off stage. The diploma ceremony continued. More names, more applause. It took 90 minutes to get through all 147 graduates. Finally, it was done. The dean announced a 45-minute break for lunch. Families could congratulate their graduates. Then, everyone should return for the keynote address. I stayed backstage during the break. I watched through the curtain as my parents rushed to Mallory. They hugged her, took dozens of photos. My mother was still crying. I saw Mallory say something and gesture toward the stage. My parents looked confused. They hadn't seen me yet. They didn't know. 1:15. Families started returning to their seats. Graduates filed back in and sat in the front rows. I took my place in the wings, stage right, waiting. My heart was pounding. My hands were steady. I had a flash drive in my pocket with all my evidence backed up. I had my notes, but I barely needed them. I had memorized every word. 1:25. The dean walked to the podium. He tapped the microphone. The audience settled down. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for returning. Now we have the honor of hearing from our keynote speaker. She is the founder and CEO of Stream Health Solutions, a company that has revolutionized healthcare technology across 43 states. She was recently featured in Forbes 30 Under 30. Her innovative work is changing how medical professionals provide care to millions of patients. Please welcome Harper Bennett. The audience applauded politely. My parents' heads whipped toward the stage. I saw my mother's hand fly to her mouth. My father leaned forward, squinting. Mallory, sitting in the front row with graduates, turned pale. Recognition was spreading across all their faces. I walked onto the stage. 4-inch heels clicking on the polished floor. I adjusted the microphone. I looked out at 2,000 people. I found my parents in row 3. I made direct eye contact with them. I watched the confusion, the shock, the dawning realization. Their rejected daughter, the adequate one, standing on stage at their golden child's graduation as the keynote speaker, as a successful CEO, as everything they said I'd never be. I smiled. And then I began. Good morning. My name is Harper Bennett, CEO of Stream Health Solutions, as you just heard. But more importantly, today I'm the older sister of one of your graduates. Mallory and I haven't been close for many years. In fact, my parents sitting in row 3 center are looking quite shocked right now because they had no idea I'd be here today. Nervous laughter rippled through the audience. My parents looked frozen. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Surprise. More uncomfortable laughter. The dean shifted in his seat behind me. This wasn't the speech I had submitted. They didn't know I'd be here because they don't know much about my life. Last time they checked, I was working some entry-level tech job driving a used Honda, living in a small apartment, barely making ends meet. That's what I let them believe for the past 8 years. But today, I want to talk about something important. Not just healthcare innovation, though, we'll get to that. I want to talk about family, about favoritism, about the cost of being told you're not worth investing in, and about what happens when you prove everyone wrong. The audience was quiet now, confused. This wasn't a typical graduation speech. 8 years ago, I was accepted to Northwestern University. I had a partial scholarship. I needed $22,000 a year from my parents to attend. I asked them for help. They said no, not because they didn't have money, but because they were saving all of it for my younger sister, who was 15 at the time and hadn't even applied to colleges yet. I paused. Let that sink in. My parents looked like they wanted to sink through the floor. They told me that day that I was adequate, that my sister had potential, that she would do something important with her life. So I went to community college instead. I worked 3 jobs. I slept 4 hours a night for years. I taught myself to code. I built a company from absolutely nothing, while my parents paid for everything for Mallory. Tuition, housing, car, vacations, and as we'll discuss much more. I clicked the presentation remote. A slide appeared on the large screens flanking the stage. Financial breakdown. I did the math. Total amount my parents invested in Mallory over the past 8 years, $340,000. Total amount invested in me, $0. But here's what they don't know. Next slide. Stream Health Solutions logo and company valuation. My company is currently valued at $125 million. My personal net worth is $18 million. I employ 62 people. We serve over 800 medical facilities. I was featured in Forbes magazine. I own my house outright. That used Honda they think I drive actually a Lexus. The struggling life they think I'm living, I left that behind 5 years ago. Gasps from the audience. My parents' faces were white. Mallory looked like she might be sick. But I'm not here to brag about my success. I'm here because I learned something disturbing about how my sister achieved hers. And given that this institution just granted her a medical degree, I think you deserve to know the truth. The dean stood up. Miss Bennett, this is highly inappropriate. I ignored him. Next slide. Bethany Rodriguez's thesis, side by side with Mallory's. This is my sister's senior thesis from Ohio State. And this is Bethany Rodriguez's original research from the same year. Notice anything, they're identical, word for word in many sections. Mallory plagiarized Bethany's entire year of work. When Bethany reported it, an investigation was launched. Then my father made a $25,000 donation to the biology department and the investigation mysteriously disappeared. Bethany was accused of making false claims and had to delay her graduation while Mallory graduated with honors. The audience was murmuring now. Faculty members were conferring with each other. Security appeared at the edge of the stage, but didn't approach yet. Wait, there's more. Next slide. Medical school application documentation. Mallory's med school application claimed 200 hours of volunteer work at a free clinic. I verified with a clinic supervisor. She attended 3 times. Total hours approximately 8. She listed a medical mission trip to Guatemala. Next slide showed resort photos. That's actually the Royalton Riviera Cancun, an all-inclusive resort. Here are the booking records. Not Guatemala. Cancun. A vacation. Not humanitarian work. The screens showed irrefutable evidence. Timestamps, hotel receipts, GPS metadata from photos. She listed a research publication. I spoke with the lead researcher, Dr. Martinez. Mallory was added as a courtesy co-author after my parents donated $10,000 to his lab. She did no actual research. She barely showed up. Everything on her application was either exaggerated or completely fabricated. Mallory was crying now. My mother was trying to get up, but my father was pulling her back down. The dean was conferring urgently with other administrators. First year of medical school, Mallory nearly failed anatomy. My parents hired private tutors for $15,000 who essentially did her homework. When she was put on academic probation, they hired an academic coach for another $10,000 who wrote her papers. Throughout her 4 years here, my parents spent over $50,000 on services to cover up the fact that she couldn't succeed on her own merit. Next slide. Financial records. Here's the real cost. My parents borrowed against their retirement accounts. They took out a second mortgage on their house. They currently have $47,000 saved for retirement. My father is 62. At his age, he should have over 400,000. They destroyed their financial future trying to buy success for a daughter who couldn't earn it honestly. The slide changed to bank records. My mother was sobbing now. And you know what the truly ironic part is? Last December, someone anonymously paid off their first mortgage, $180,000 payment. They thought it was a bank error. They never questioned it. It was me, the adequate daughter, the one not worth investing in. I paid off their house. Shocked silence. I also set up a trust fund for them. $500,000 that will provide $40,000 annually for the rest of their lives. They'll get the details after today. The daughter they rejected saved them from the bankruptcy that the daughter they worshipped drove them toward. Let that irony sink in. Security was moving toward me now, but half the audience was on their feet. Some were applauding, others looked horrified. The graduates were in chaos. I have all the evidence right here. I clicked through several more slides. Verified statements from Bethany. Emails from tutors confirming they did Mallory's work. Bank records of my father's donations. Photo metadata proving the fake mission trip. Everything documented, timestamped, verified by multiple sources. I'm leaving copies with the administration. I assume they'll want to review Mallory's degree status. The dean was beside me now. Miss Bennett, you need to stop. I'm done anyway. I looked directly at my parents. I've spent 8 years proving you wrong about me, about my potential, about my worth. You called me adequate and I became extraordinary. You invested everything in Mallory and she couldn't succeed without cheating. I hope it was worth it. I hope watching her walk across that stage for a degree she didn't earn was worth destroying your financial future. Because unlike you, I actually earned everything I have. And I did it completely on my own. I walked off the stage. Security escorted me, but they didn't stop me. The audience was in an uproar. Some were yelling. Some were applauding. My parents were pushing through the crowd trying to reach me. I could hear my mother screaming. How could you do this to us? I turned to look at her. How could you? I kept walking. Out the side door. Across the parking lot. Into my Lexus. I drove away while chaos erupted behind me. My phone was blowing up. I turned it off. I had said what I came to say. I had burned it all down. And I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. The first week after the graduation was chaos. I didn't turn my phone back on until the next morning. When I did, I had 273 missed calls, 112 voicemails, 468 text messages. Most were from my parents and extended family. Some were from journalists who had somehow gotten my number. The story had gone viral. I listened to 3 voicemails from my mother. The first was angry. How dare you humiliate us like that? You're vindictive and cruel. We gave you a roof over your head and food to eat, and this is how you repay us. The second was desperate. Please call us back. We need to explain. You don't understand the whole situation. The third was just crying. No words, just sobbing. My father left one message. His voice was cold. You've destroyed your sister's life out of jealousy. I always knew you were selfish, but I didn't think you were capable of this level of cruelty. Don't contact us again. I deleted all of them. The medical school moved quickly. By June 10th, just 2 days after graduation, they announced a formal investigation into Mallory's records. The press release was carefully worded, but the implication was clear. Allegations of academic dishonesty are being reviewed. The dean of students has suspended the conferral of degrees pending investigation outcomes. Mallory's medical degree was in limbo. Bethany Rodriguez went public. She gave an interview to the Columbus Dispatch. She provided all her documentation. She told the story of how her academic career was damaged by my family's corruption. The university is finally taking this seriously after years of covering it up because of donor money, she said in the interview. I'm grateful to Harper Bennett for having the courage to expose the truth. Ohio State University reopened the plagiarism case from Mallory's undergraduate thesis. On June 15th, they announced their findings. After thorough review of evidence provided by multiple sources, We have determined that substantial plagiarism occurred in the thesis submitted by Mallory Bennett in 2021. Her Bachelor of Science degree in biology is hereby revoked effective immediately. Mallory's undergraduate degree was gone. On June 20th, the medical school concluded their investigation. Based on falsified application materials, purchased academic assistance constituting honor code violations, and the revocation of the prerequisite undergraduate degree, Ohio State Medical School is revoking the Doctor of Medicine degree conditionally granted to Mallory Bennett. Furthermore, her records will be flagged in the National Medical Education Database. Mallory's medical degree was revoked. 4 years of medical school. $240,000 in tuition my parents paid. Countless hours. All for nothing. She would never be a doctor. No medical school would accept her. With a revoked degree on her record, no residency program would touch her. Her career was over before it started. My parents tried everything to reach me. They called my office. My assistant was instructed to refuse all calls from anyone with the last name Bennett. They sent emails. My email filters caught them. They showed up at my company headquarters. Security turned them away. I had anticipated all of this. On June 25th, they showed up at my house. I don't know how they got my address, but there they were at 7 in the evening, ringing my doorbell, banging on the door. I watched them through my security camera. My mother was crying. My father looked broken. They stood there for 20 minutes before finally leaving. I felt nothing watching them. No sympathy, no regret. They had spent 8 years telling me I wasn't worth their investment. 8 years of watching them pour everything into my sister while I got nothing. 8 years of being told I was adequate. They made their choices. Now they were living with the consequences. Extended family took sides. My aunt, the one who had always stayed in touch, called me. "Harper, I'm proud of you. I know that might sound terrible given everything, but someone needed to call them out. What they did to you was wrong. Always was." 3 of my cousins reached out with similar messages. We never realized how bad it was. We're sorry we didn't say something sooner. But my uncles, my father's brothers, were furious. One of them left me a voicemail calling me a vindictive brat who destroyed my family over jealousy. "Family doesn't do this to family," he said. "You should be ashamed." My grandparents on my mother's side were equally angry. They called, and I actually answered. Big mistake. My grandmother launched into a tirade. "You destroyed your sister's life. You ruined your parents' reputation. All because you couldn't stand that Mallory was successful and you weren't. You're selfish and cruel and you're no granddaughter of mine." I let her finish. Then I said very calmly, Mallory wasn't successful. She was a fraud. Everything she had was purchased by her parents or stolen from other people. I exposed the truth. If you can't handle the truth, that's your problem, not mine. My grandmother sputtered. "Family protects family." "Family doesn't play favorites," I replied. "Family doesn't tell one daughter she's adequate while spending hundreds of thousands on the other. You enabled them for years. You watched them treat me like I didn't matter and you said nothing. So don't lecture me about family." I hung up. I blocked their numbers. By mid-July, I heard through my aunt what was happening with Mallory and my parents. Mallory had moved back home. She was working at Target, stocking shelves, working register, wearing a red vest, and name tag. The girl who was supposed to be Dr. Bennett was making $13 an hour in retail. My parents were barely speaking to each other. The stress was destroying them. My father had aged 10 years in a month. My mother wasn't sleeping. They were going to therapy, but it wasn't helping. They blamed each other. They blamed me. They blamed everyone except themselves. The trust fund I had set up remained untouched. The financial institution managing it sent them notification letters explaining that they had access to $500,000 that would provide income for life. My parents refused to touch it. Blood money, my father called it. He would rather struggle than accept help from me. Fine. More money for them when they finally came to their senses. Or more money to go to charity when they died, still too proud to accept it. I didn't care anymore. I went back to running my company. The publicity from the graduation speech had an unexpected effect. My business actually grew. Several news outlets ran stories about my journey from community college to CEO. Forbes did a follow-up article. Young entrepreneur exposes family corruption while building tech empire. The story resonated with a lot of people who had been underestimated or overlooked by their families. My company's client base expanded. More hospitals wanted to work with us. By August, we had signed 12 new contracts worth a combined $7 million. Our valuation increased. I hired 20 more employees. I was thriving while my family fell apart. And I felt no guilt about it. August 15th, 3 months after the graduation, something unexpected happened. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Harper, please don't hang up. My mother's voice. Broken. Desperate. How did you get this number? I asked. I called your office and told them it was an emergency. Please, just listen. I'm listening. Your father had a heart attack. He's in the hospital. She started crying. He's stable now, but he needs surgery. Bypass surgery. Our insurance will cover some of it, but there are still costs, and we don't have the money, and I don't know what to do. I was silent. I know I have no right to ask you for anything. I know we failed you. I know we were terrible parents to you. But he's your father, Harper, please. He stopped being my father when he called me adequate and refused to help me with college, I said coldly. I know. She was crying harder now. I know we failed you so badly. Watching Mallory completely fall apart these past months has made me realize what we did. We created a monster by never making her earn anything. We gave her everything and she never learned to work for anything. And we abandoned you when you needed us most. We were wrong. We were so terribly wrong. Why should I help? Why should I care what happens to him? You shouldn't. My mother's voice was quiet. I wouldn't blame you if you hung up right now and never spoke to us again. We deserve that. But you're a better person than we are. You proved that by setting up that trust fund even after everything we did. You're better than us. Please. I sat in my office, staring out the window. I could let him die, or struggle with bills, or lose everything. It would be perfect revenge. Let them hit rock bottom the way they forced me to. But that's not who I was. That's not who I wanted to be. What hospital? I asked. She told me. I'll be there tomorrow, I said, and hung up. I flew to Ohio the next morning. Took a commercial flight because I wanted time to think. I drove a rental car to the hospital, walked into the cardiac unit, found his room. My father looked old, frail, nothing like the strong man I remembered from childhood. He was awake, saw me, and started crying. I'm sorry, he said. It was the first time I'd heard him apologize for anything. Ever. I sat down in the chair next to his bed. I was so wrong about you, Harper. You were never adequate. You were exceptional. You always were. I just couldn't see it. I thought Mallory needed more help. I thought you'd be fine on your own because you were so capable. But that's not an excuse. I should have supported you. I should have been proud of you. I should have helped you. Instead, I pushed you away and poured everything into your sister. And I created someone who couldn't function without constant help. I destroyed both my daughters in different ways. I'm so sorry. Tears were running down his face. He looked pathetic, broken. You called me adequate, I said. Do you remember that? He nodded. Worst thing I ever said. You're extraordinary, Harper. You built something amazing. You did it all on your own. I should have been celebrating you all these years instead of ignoring you. You should have. We sat in silence for a minute. I don't deserve your help, he said quietly. But I'm asking anyway, please. I'll pay for the surgery, I said. And I'm activating the trust fund, whether you like it or not. You'll have enough money to retire comfortably. But there are conditions. Anything. You go to family therapy. All three of you. Real therapy, not just talking to some counselor once and calling it done. You commit to it for at least a year. Second, you publicly apologize to me. On Facebook. Tell everyone what you did. Admit how you treated me. Own it. Third, you tell Mallory that the bailouts are done. She needs to earn her own way from now on. No more paying for things. No more fixing her mistakes. She needs to grow up. Those are my terms. My father agreed immediately. Yes. All of it. Whatever you want. My mother appeared in the doorway. She looked terrible. She saw me and burst into tears. I'm so sorry, Harper. I'm so sorry. She kept saying it over and over. I stood up. The surgery is scheduled for next week. I'll take care of the bills. You'll get information about the trust fund in a few days. And I want to see proof that you're all in therapy by the end of the month. Thank you, my mother whispered. Don't thank me. This doesn't fix what you did. This doesn't make us a family again. But I'm doing it because I choose to be better than you were to me. That's the only reason. I walked out. 6 months passed. It's March 2025 now. I'm sitting in my office writing this all down because someone suggested I share my story. Maybe it will help someone else who's been told they're not good enough. My father's surgery was successful. He recovered. He retired. He and my mother are living on the income from the trust fund I set up. $40,000 a year. It's not extravagant, but it's enough. They're financially stable for the first time in years. They kept their promise. They've been going to family therapy every week for 6 months. My mother sent me updates occasionally. We're learning a lot about ourselves, about our mistakes. We have so much work to do. My father posted a public apology on Facebook in September. It was long, detailed. He admitted to the favoritism. He admitted to calling me adequate. He admitted to destroying their finances to prop up Mallory. He apologized to me specifically. He apologized to everyone who witnessed the graduation disaster. Some of his friends were supportive. Some stopped talking to him. He lost his position on the church board. His reputation in town was damaged. Good. Mallory is in therapy too. She's still working at Target. She's also taking classes at community college. Actually taking them seriously this time. No tutors, no shortcuts. She studies. She works. She's learning what it's like to earn things. She called me in December. Her voice was small. I'm sorry, Harper. I didn't know how much you struggled. I didn't understand how much I was given without earning it. I was spoiled and entitled and cruel to you. I'm trying to change. Really trying. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. Are you actually changing, or are you just saying words? I asked. I'm trying. I know it doesn't fix anything. I know I ruined my own life by cheating and lying. But I'm trying to become someone better. Someone who actually earns things. Maybe someday I'll believe you, I said. But not yet. We're not close. We probably never will be. The damage is too deep. But there's peace between us now. Uneasy peace, but peace. My parents and I talk occasionally. Brief conversations. Superficial topics. We don't have family dinners. We don't spend holidays together. The relationships are permanently fractured. But at least there's communication. My company is now valued at $180 million. I'm 30 years old. I have 103 employees. We're expanding internationally. Forbes contacted me for another feature. I bought a second house in Colorado for vacations. I'm living a life beyond anything my parents imagined for me. The girl they called adequate built an empire. And that's the real revenge. Not destroying them, though I did that too. The real revenge is proving that their limitations were never mine, that their lack of vision had nothing to do with my potential, that I didn't need their support or their money or their validation. I became extraordinary in spite of them, not because of them. Was it worth it? The years of struggle, the poverty, the exhaustion, the loneliness? Yes. Because it made me who I am. It taught me that I don't need anyone's permission to be successful. It proved that being underestimated is sometimes the greatest gift because it removes all the pressure and lets you work in silence until you're ready to make noise. My parents were wrong about me. Completely wrong. And I'm grateful they were wrong because their rejection forced me to become self-sufficient in a way I never would have if they had supported me. Their favoritism toward Mallory destroyed her. She never learned resilience or perseverance or how to handle failure. My parents' neglect of me. It made me stronger than I ever knew I could be. So here's what I learned. Family isn't always the people you're born to. Sometimes family is the people you choose. Sometimes the biggest favor someone can do for you is to underestimate you and get out of your way. Sometimes being called adequate is the motivation you need to become extraordinary. And sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. Sometimes it's about building yourself up so high that they have to look up to see you. That's the revenge that lasts. That's the revenge that matters. I won. Not by ruining them, though I did that. I won by proving that I never needed them in the first place. And that adequate was never in my vocabulary. So to everyone out there who's been overlooked, underestimated, told they're not good enough, here's my message. Prove them wrong. Build something they can't ignore. Become someone they never imagined you could be. And when you succeed, don't do it for their validation. Do it for yourself. Because at the end of the day, the only person who needs to believe in you is you. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been the forgotten child in your family? Have you had to prove people wrong about what you're capable of? What would you do if you were in my position? Would you have exposed your sister publicly or handled it differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to hear more real stories about family drama and personal triumph. Share this with anyone who needs to hear that being underestimated isn't the end of the story, it's just the beginning. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that your family's opinion of you doesn't define your worth. You define your worth. Make them regret underestimating you. I wish you strength, success, and the courage to prove everyone wrong who ever doubted you.